Okay, here's a thought. What if having, like, most of the ball is actually why your team gets absolutely hammered?
Hmm. Sounds counterintuitive, doesn't it?
Totally. But think about that Newcastle versus Man United game, April 13th, 2025, that match. It's kind of the perfect example.
Ah, yes. St. James's Park. That one really stood out.
Yeah, so today we're going to dive deep into that one. We want to sort of expose this. Well, this illusion of control that possession stats can sometimes give you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because on the surface, you see Manchester United with more possession, and you think they're dominating, right?
Right.
But the 4-1 scoreline tells a very, very different story.
It really does. So our mission today is to figure out why. Why didn't that possession translate? And you mentioned there's a key stat.
Oh, yeah. There's one particular statistic from this game that is just, well, it's shocking, frankly. It shines a massive light on United's problems that day.
Okay, intriguing. And we'll get into some tactical bits too, like what United could have done.
Yep, definitely. We'll touch on some tactical takeaways towards the end, what they might wish they'd done differently. Cool. So let's set the scene first. Match week 32, April 13th, 2025. St. James's Park. The atmosphere must have been electric. Oh, absolutely. Newcastle were flying high, top five, pushing hard for those European spots, real momentum behind them.
And United, where were they at?
Struggling, really struggling.
Right.
Down in 14th place, I think it was. They desperately needed something, anything from this game.
So high stakes for different reasons. Newcastle aiming high, United trying to stop the rot. You could probably feel that tension.
Definitely. A real sense of urgency from both sides, for sure.
Okay, so let's get into the numbers a bit. The possession stats, they look decent for United initially, don't they?
They do. On paper, 52% possession for Manchester United, and their passing accuracy was okay too, like 81%.
See, if you just saw that, you might think, all right, United controlled the game, passed it well.
But, and this is the big but, that's where the illusion really kicks in. You look at Newcastle's side of things.
Right, what were their numbers? Less possession.
Yeah, slightly less, 48% possession. And their passing accuracy was a touch lower too, 79%. A huge difference there.
Okay, pretty similar then. So where's the big disconnect?
It's in what they did with the ball, the actual threat. Newcastle managed 6 shots on target. United only got 5.
Okay, so Newcastle slightly more dangerous despite less ball, but is that the whole story?
Not even close. Look at how Newcastle attacked. Crosses. They put in, wait for it, 24 crosses into the box.
24. Wow, compared to United.
United managed just 7.
That's a massive difference in approach.
Huge. And corners, too. Newcastle won 7 corners. United, only 2.
So Newcastle were constantly attacking from wide, putting that defense under pressure, forcing corners, getting balls into the danger zone.
Precisely. They had a clear plan. Get it wide, get crosses in, test that United defense. Meanwhile, United's possession, it felt, I don't know.
Sterile. Is that the word?
Yeah, sterile is a good word. Lots of passing, sure, but where was the end product? Where were the clear chances? It was just possession for possession's sake, almost.
The illusion of control. Holding the ball, but not actually hurting the opponent.
Exactly that. It raises that question, what's the point of having the ball if you're not actually threatening the goal?
Right. Okay, so attacking intent, massive difference. But you teased an astonishing statistic earlier. Was it related to this attacking difference?
Not directly, no. This is where we shift focus a bit to the other end of the pitch. This stat really explains how a potential threat difference turned into such a big scoreline. It's about the goalkeepers.
Ah, the keepers.
Okay, lay it on us.
Right. So for Newcastle, Nick Pope, he faced 5 shots on target that day. How many did he save?
4.
4 out of 5. That's really good. An 80% save percentage.
Exactly. Rock solid. That gives your whole team such a boost, knowing you've got that security behind you.
Okay. So what about United's keeper? Altay Bayındır.
Well, this is where it gets grim for United fans. Bayındır faced 6 shots on target. He only managed to save 2 of them.
2 out of 6. Seriously.
Seriously, that's a save percentage of just 33%.
Wow. 33% versus 80%. The difference is...
It's enormous. A 47% difference in save percentage between the 2 keepers on the day.
That's staggering.
Yeah.
So while Newcastle had Pope making crucial saves, keeping them in it or ahead...
Bayındır was struggling. And let's be honest, conceding 4 goals, that performance, or lack thereof, directly contributed to that heavy defeat. It wasn't just the defense in front of him.
It really highlights that defensive solidity, or the lack of it, can completely undermine anything you try to do with possession further up the pitch.
Absolutely. Pope provided that foundation.
Bayındır.
Well, he didn't It really makes you think how much confidence flows from the keeper, doesn't it?
Definitely. Okay, so massive keeper difference.
Yeah.
But the game itself, it wasn't always 4-1, was it? There must have been a point where things really swung?
You're right. It wasn't a blowout from the start. Actually, Sandro Tonali put Newcastle ahead, but then Alejandro Garnacho grabbed an equalizer for United.
Okay, so 1-1. Game on, really. Could have gone either way at that point.
Yeah, pretty balanced. Anyone's game. But then came the moment that, for me, really tipped the scales.
The turning point.
Yeah. Early in the second half, 49th minute it was, Harvey Barnes scores for Newcastle. Makes it 2-1.
Right after halftime, basically. That can be a killer.
It really can. And you could almost see the momentum shift. Newcastle's tails were up. Suddenly they look full of confidence and united. Well, now they had to chase the game.
Which forces them to open up more, right? Take more risks.
Exactly. They had to push forward, looking for that second equalizer, and that inevitably leaves spaces at the back.
And Newcastle, playing with confidence, were ready to exploit that.
They absolutely were. They went on to score 2 more goals after that Barnes strike. It really felt like that 2-1 goal just deflated United and gave Newcastle all the belief they needed to go on and win comfortably.
Yeah, that makes sense. A psychological blow as much as a scoreboard one.
Totally. It changed the whole dynamic of the match.
Okay, so if we're looking back, almost like doing a post-mortem for Manchester United here, what are the big tactical lessons if they could, rewind the tape?
Well, based on everything we've seen, the data, how the game played out, there are a few pretty clear takeaways.
Go on.
First, obviously the goalkeeping situation and just the general defensive setup. That 33% save rate, you just can't win games like that.
So better goalkeeping, clearly, but also maybe protecting the keeper more.
Yeah, exactly. Perhaps a more compact shape defensively. Don't allow those easy shots. Try and limit the quality of chances the opposition gets, especially if your keeper isn't having a great day.
Makes sense. What else? You mentioned the crosses and corners earlier.
That's number 2. Defending wide areas and set pieces. Newcastle absolutely dominated them there. Those 24 crosses, 7 corners, United just couldn't handle it. They needed to be much, much better organized to deal with that aerial threat.
Right. Stop the source or at least defend the box better. And then the attack, even with 52% possession.
Attacking efficiency, that's the third point. Possession is fine, but it has to lead somewhere. They need more purposeful passing, more players running into dangerous areas, and frankly, more clinical finishing when a chance did come along.
Less sterile possession, more cutting edge.
Precisely. And linked to the set pieces. Maybe point 4 is discipline.
How so?
Well, were they giving away silly fouls in bad areas? You give a team like Newcastle, who are good in the air, free kicks around the box,
yeah,
you're just asking for trouble. So maintaining discipline, not conceding cheap set pieces.
Good point. Especially given Newcastle's threat. Okay, anything else?
The final one really brings it all together, back to that possession point. They just had to find ways to convert that time on the ball into actual danger.
So more penetrating passes, runs in behind.
Yeah, all of that. Less sideways and backwards, more focus on breaking the lines, getting players facing the goal in threatening positions, turn possession into real quality chances. It sounds simple, but they just didn't do it.
So when we wrap this all up, this wasn't just like a bad day at the office for United, was it? It feels like this match really exposed something deeper.
I think that's fair to say.
Yeah.
Our analysis, looking at all this, it really points to some pretty fundamental flaws in how United were set up and how they played that day. Tactical ineptitude might be a strong phrase, but
maybe accurate in this case. They kind of handed Newcastle the win.
You could argue that, yeah. The goalkeeping difference was stark. The inability to defend wide areas was glaring, and the attack was just blunt, despite having the ball.
So those things, the keeper stats, the crosses, they weren't just isolated issues, but symptoms of a bigger problem.
Exactly. Symptoms of a deeper, maybe systemic failure on the day. It wasn't just possession without purpose, though that was part of it. It felt like a lack of tactical intelligence, maybe?
Yeah.
A failure to adapt to what Newcastle were clearly doing very effectively.
Wow. So not just beaten, but
tactically humiliated? It sounds harsh, but based on this game, it's hard to argue against it. And it definitely makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is this a blip or is it, a sign of a bigger decline?
Yeah, a really worrying sign for them. So after seeing how Manchester United struggled so much, even with all that possession, it really poses a question for everyone watching football, I think.
What's that?
Is it actually better to, dominate the ball, look like you're in control, but still lose heavily? Or is it better to have less of the ball, maybe not look as pretty, but execute a plan effectively and walk away with the win?
That's the million-dollar question in football tactics, isn't it? Style versus substance.
It really is. Food for thought.
Yeah.
Anyway, leave a comment if you enjoyed this soccer talk. And definitely subscribe to the AI Go podcast for more epic soccer deep dives.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Thanks for tuning in, everyone.